Welcome to Life Stories. What would you do if your own father had you escorted out of a party you paid for and called you a beggar in front of everyone? Imagine building your life from the ground up, becoming the most successful person in your family, only to realize that the love you've been buying all these years was never real. It was just leased. This is the story of one woman's quiet heartbreak, her explosive awakening, and the moment she decided enough was enough. It's about the cost of family loyalty when love is conditional, and the brutal beauty of choosing yourself for the first time. Stay with us, because once you hear what really happened behind those champagne glasses and family smiles, you'll never look at loyalty the same way again. Let's begin. Samantha Reed had always believed that love, at its core, was earned, not given. That if she worked hard enough, succeeded long enough, and gave generously enough, one day her family would see her. Really see her. Not as a lifeline or a wallet, but as a daughter, a sister, a person worthy of something more than polite indifference. But beliefs like that tend to unravel fast, especially under the fluorescent lights of a luxury restaurant lobby, while security is quietly ushering you out of an event you paid for. It had started weeks earlier with a warm phone call from her mother, Margaret Maggie Reed, the kind of woman who wore pearls to brunch and could make passive aggression sound like affection. "Sam, darling, your father and I are planning a little something for our 40th anniversary," she cooed. Just a quiet dinner at Le Nouveau, only 60 guests, family and close friends. Samantha had nodded on the other end of the line, clutching her phone like a lifeline, that old childlike hope flickering to life in her chest. Maybe, just maybe, this was the moment they would treat her like part of the inner circle, not the periphery. The deposit for Le Nouveau? $18,000. A drop in the bucket for a financial advisor who had built a boutique firm in San Francisco's booming tech industry before turning 30. But a wound in the making for the girl inside her who had once watched her parents beam at her sister Chelsea's C- report card while barely blinking when Sam won the state math championship. Still, she had paid, like she always did, quietly, efficiently, without hesitation. Because that's what family does, until family turns you into a transaction. The night of the event, San Francisco was bathed in one of those rare spring dusks where the sky blushed lavender and the breeze held just enough chill to remind you of the ocean beyond the bay. Samantha had dressed carefully. Black Valentino, sapphire pendant from her late grandmother Nora, the only person who'd ever made her feel seen. In her hand, a silver-wrapped gift box containing 2 Philippe watches. One for her mother, one for her father. A symbol, a peace offering. A daughter's last-ditch plea for inclusion. The valet had smiled. The elevator attendant had nodded. But the hostess had frowned. "I'm sorry, ma'am," she said, after scanning the list twice. "Your name isn't on the guest list." Samantha had laughed, soft and confused. "There must be a mistake. I'm their daughter." The hostess had exchanged a glance with the event coordinator. Minutes later, her parents appeared in the doorway. Margaret pristine in silver chiffon, Thomas Stern in his tailored tux, a glass of champagne trembling in his hand. Samantha stepped forward, gift extended, words caught in her throat. "We appreciate the financial contribution," her father said, "but this is a private family gathering." Private. Family. She had no words. Only the crushing realization that the one seat she had never been offered was at the table she had paid to set. And then came the sentence that would haunt her sleep. "Get this freeloader out of here." The security guard hesitated. Her father didn't. By the time she reached her car, her makeup had blurred into rivers. The silver gift box sat beside her, untouched. The memory of Chelsea averting her gaze and Kyle pretending not to know her stung more than the cold air outside. And yet, something inside her shifted. A slow, silent snapping of a chain. Not rage, not grief. Clarity. That night, Samantha didn't drink. She didn't scream. She opened her laptop. The spreadsheet she pulled up was color-coded, meticulous, spanning 10 years of transactions. Mortgage payments, business loans, tuition, vacations she was never invited to join. $327,840.38. That was the number. She'd never said it out loud. Never dared to look it in the face. Her best friend Jordan, who had arrived mid-breakdown with pad thai and a bottle of wine, stared at the screen in disbelief. "That's a house," she whispered. "That's your life." Samantha didn't cry again. Not that night. Not when she canceled the Alaska cruise she had booked in her father's name. Not when she recalled the funds Kyle hadn't yet used for his latest startup. Not when she called the Disney resort to cancel the vacation Chelsea had promised her kids. She canceled everything. She even redirected the party deposit to a children's hospital, anonymously. What came next was predictable. Calls, texts, screaming voicemails. Her mother sobbed. Her sister threatened legal action. Her brother raged about destroying his future. Her father? He showed up the next morning, flanked by the entire Reed clan, furious and insulted, demanding she fix it. She didn't. She handed them a printed report. Every dollar, every dime, every debt. And just when it seemed like she'd exhausted the family's arsenal of manipulation, her father delivered one final blow. "You're no longer part of this family." Samantha smiled, calm as glass. "Then stop sending me the bill." Have you ever given more than you received just to earn love that was never truly there? What would you do if the people who raised you used your generosity as a weapon? The first betrayal was silent. The second, public. But the third would be hers. And it was only just beginning. When Samantha closed the door behind her family that morning, silence settled like dust in the apartment. Not the comforting kind, but the taut, stretched kind. Silence that had weight, shape, history. Her legs trembled from the confrontation, but she forced herself to stay upright. She poured coffee with steady hands, though her insides quaked. Every word from that hour replayed in her head, but one stood louder than the rest. "You're no longer part of this family." She didn't cry. Not because it didn't hurt, but because something in her was finally too tired to mourn people who had never truly grieved losing her. Later that evening, her cousin Michelle sent a text. "They're telling everyone you've gone off the rails, that you need help. Aunt Maggie says you've been brainwashed by your therapist." Samantha stared at the screen, her mouth curling into something between a smirk and a wince. The script was familiar. When control slips, rewrite the story. She didn't reply. But what Michelle sent next changed everything. "By the way, did you know Grandma Nora left you something?" The breath left Samantha's lungs as if someone had punched her. "What?" "I'm not supposed to say anything, but Aunt Linda has it. A letter, a trust. Something Grandma meant for you, but your mom convinced her to hold off." For a moment, Samantha stood completely still. The world around her went quiet. She walked to the window and stared out over the San Francisco skyline. Lights glittered across the bay, and underneath the surface of her calm, something ancient stirred. A grief she didn't know she'd buried. Grandma Nora had been the only one who ever called her Sammy, and meant it like a secret handshake. Who sent handwritten notes with $20 bills in college and said, "Use this for something fun, not useful." Who once whispered during a Reed family Christmas, "You don't have to earn a seat at a table you built." She had been gone 7 years, but apparently not entirely. The next morning, Samantha met Aunt Linda at a small bakery in Berkeley, a safe place with almond croissants and no history. Linda looked older, but her eyes were clear. "Your mother's going to hate that I did this," she said, handing over a plain manila envelope. But Eleanor was nobody's fool. She saw what was happening. She just didn't want to leave you vulnerable. Inside was a letter, written in her grandmother's unmistakable script. "My dearest Sammy." Samantha had to stop after that. Her fingers trembled, her eyes welled. She blinked, breathed, and kept reading. "I see how hard you try. I see how invisible they make you feel. You are not the background. You are the light. I'm leaving you this because one day I believe you will walk away. Not in anger, but in strength. When you do, this will be waiting. Use it to build, not mend. Use it to fly, not explain. You owe them nothing, but you owe yourself everything." There was more. A bank statement, a trust account under her name. $175,000, untouched, growing quietly all these years. It wasn't the money that undid her. It was the knowing. Her grandmother had seen her, all along. Seen what her parents would never admit, that Samantha was the spine of the family, bent to breaking, never thanked, rarely noticed. and Nora had left her a gift not of money, but of validation. Later that week at her therapist's office, Samantha read the letter aloud. Dr. Chin listened in silence, hands folded. When she finished, the room felt impossibly still. "I feel like someone finally told me I wasn't crazy," Samantha said, "that I'm not selfish, that love isn't meant to come with conditions and a calculator." Dr. Chin nodded. "You've spent your whole life being told that survival was loyalty, that suffering and silence made you good. This letter, this is your permission slip to stop surviving, to start living." But even freedom has echoes. That Friday, she received an email. Subject line, "Urgent, media inquiry." A local financial news blog had gotten wind of family conflict involving a well-known Bay Area advisor. The message was vague but pointed. Someone was leaking. Samantha felt her stomach tighten. They were trying to ruin her reputation, discredit her, make her look unstable to her clients, her community, her professional world. Because if they couldn't guilt her, they would discredit her. She sat at her kitchen counter that night, the lights low, Nora's letter folded carefully beside her. She looked at her laptop, then out the window, then back again. She knew what came next. Not defense, not retreat. Ownership. The next morning, she drafted a letter, a personal statement, not to the press, not to her clients, to her followers. She shared her story cleanly, truthfully, and without malice. Not naming names, but naming what mattered, the manipulation, the guilt, the theft masquerading as love. She ended it with a question. How much are you willing to give to people who only love you when you bleed? She posted it, walked away. Let the silence fall again. This time, it didn't feel heavy. It felt earned. Have you ever discovered a hidden truth that shattered your past, but set you free? Share what it felt like to finally know, because when a family becomes a mirror that only reflects your usefulness, walking away isn't betrayal, it's self-rescue. And Samantha was about to learn just how far that rescue would have to go. Samantha didn't expect peace to feel so quiet. Not silent in the suffocating way she'd once known, where silence meant absence, meant rejection, but a kind of gentle hush that settled inside her like snowfall. She still woke some mornings expecting the pang, the unanswered text, the passive-aggressive voicemail, the desperate call masked as duty. But the noise had stopped, and in its place, something else had grown, slowly, stubbornly, like a garden in the ruins. 6 months had passed since she'd told the world her truth. Her story had gone further than she imagined. Strangers wrote from Ohio, from Lisbon, from Tokyo, people who had played the role of provider, of scapegoat, of just be grateful you're needed. They didn't want money. They wanted to be seen. Samantha read every message. Some she answered, some she saved. All of them reminded her that this pain wasn't private. It was systemic, generational, but it could be broken. Professionally, she thrived. Clients respected her more, not less. The transparency had humanized her. Her firm grew, slowly but intentionally. No more working herself hollow to fill someone else's void. And personally, something unexpected was taking root. It began with a letter, not an email, not a text, a handwritten letter mailed to her office. The envelope was pale blue, the ink careful. Inside, a card. Dear Samantha, I don't know if I have the right to write you, but I've read your story. I saw what they did. I was there, and I stayed silent. I'm sorry. If you ever want to talk, I'd like to start over. Michelle. Samantha held the card in her hands for a long time. Forgiveness had never been the goal, but something about the way Michelle didn't ask for it, that mattered. She didn't respond right away. She let the card sit on her nightstand for weeks. Then, one Sunday morning in January, she texted, "Coffee? Just coffee." They met at a quiet cafe near the Embarcadero. Michelle looked nervous, eyes darting, hands fidgeting. "I'm not here to explain them," she said first. "I just want to apologize for me." Samantha nodded. "Thank you." There was more silence. Then laughter. Small at first about something silly, an overheard conversation, a shared memory from childhood. And for a moment, Samantha remembered who they were before the money twisted everything. Over time, Michelle became a bridge, not to reconciliation, but to truth. Through her, Samantha learned things she had long suspected but never confirmed. That Maggie had always seen Samantha's success as a threat to Chelsea's ego. That Thomas had justified the financial dependence as balancing the scales because Samantha had more. that her siblings had routinely taken credit for her gifts, claiming them to curry favor, never once correcting the lie. It should have broken her heart. But it didn't, because Samantha no longer measured worth by her family's approval. The betrayal no longer defined her. It clarified her. That spring, she launched the Nora Foundation, a scholarship fund and mentorship program for young adults estranged from family support systems. She named it not for legacy, but for love, the rare, unbought kind that had once been slipped to her in handwritten notes and old lace handkerchiefs. Then came the call. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Samantha? The voice was thin, crackling with age. Yes? It's Thomas, your father. She froze, her breath caught. He didn't speak for a moment, as though waiting to see if she'd hang up. She didn't. I was in the hospital last week. Nothing major, just a scare. Maggie's nerves are shot. We've had to sell the house. Things are not great. Samantha waited. There was always a catch. I've been thinking a lot about what I said, what I did. I know sorry doesn't cut it, but I didn't call to ask for anything. I just thought maybe you should know. She felt the words press against her chest. For a second, a younger version of herself sat up inside her, hopeful, hungry. But Samantha, the woman she'd become, exhaled. I appreciate you calling, she said softly. That's all, he replied. Take care of yourself. When the line went dead, she sat very still. She felt nothing. Not joy, not revenge, just the quiet finality of a book gently closing. That summer, Samantha hosted her second Friendsgiving, this time in June. A joke among her chosen family, because healing doesn't follow holidays. Jordan brought wine and her new fiancé. Maya came with her baby, now babbling. Michelle brought a pie and no apologies. Aunt Linda arrived last, smiling with a warmth that no longer needed to be earned. As the sun dipped below the Golden Gate Bridge and the sky turned a bruised shade of blue, Samantha raised her glass. To chosen family, she said, and to never mistaking being needed for being loved. There were tears, there was laughter, and there was peace, the kind she used to think could only come once her family accepted her. But that night, she understood something deeper. Some people won't change. Some wounds don't close clean. But healing doesn't wait for apologies. Healing is what you choose every day you wake up and say, I am not who they said I was. I am mine now. What did this story make you feel or reflect on about your own life or relationships? Comment 100 if this story resonated with you. Where are you watching from? Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Thank you for watching Life Stories.